But tell me one thing, Pragati, I've always wondered, why has COVID been game changer for mental health? Why did people come out of their closets, I would say, talking about mental health or saying, you fine, you know what, I think I have depression, I need to seek help?
There is a very interesting theory in psychology called object relations theory, which says that if you are struggling in a relationship, the cause of it is actually your first 5 years and the relationship with your mother or your father.
How to deal with childhood trauma? Like you said, first to 5 years of your life, you gathered so much. And even later, what is emotional intelligence, Pragati? So I have studied about it a little bit myself, but not much. So I want to understand, I want our viewers to understand, what is emotional intelligence?
Okay. So emotional intelligence is actually a very interesting concept. It's about your ability to first understand yourself. It has 5 basic components. These children grow up in households where parents are yelling and screaming at each other, look at each other disgustedly. So safety at home has gone away from their life. Also, when they look at social media, they are not feeling fulfilled in their own lives, So with children, many a times they actually come to me with depression, with anxiety, with stress.
When they go to schools, they see people of a strata and maybe they are not of that strata. That bothers them. Even for adults, I feel, when they go socializing and they don't feel that they have the best cars or the best houses and all of financial, I would say, ownership has become a very big part of mental health. So how to deal with it? And why is it become so important?
I'm going to share a very personal story here.
Thank you for tuning into The Speaking Edge. This podcast aims at creating your personal life university to help you grow. I would request you all to watch, share and subscribe to the channel so that we are motivated to bring to you real life stories, the best conversations and spread the knowledge of life skills we wish our education had taught us. It's a privilege to welcome Pragati Sureka, a Harvard-accredited clinical psychologist, speaker, corporate trainer, and author. Specializing in preventive mental health care, she has authored 8 books on emotional well being, with 5 more releasing in 2025. Her expertise in emotional intelligence, change management, and stress management has made her a sought after speaker, including an invitation to World Economic Forum Davos in 2024. Through her dynamic workshops, she empowers individuals and organizations with practical tools for resilience and growth. Today, in this podcast, we will cover sensitive topics around mental health like childhood trauma, depression, anxiety, menopause and mental health, how to cope the loss of a loved one, and the rapid increase of disturbed mental health and the tools to overcome it. Let's give a warm welcome to Pragati Sureka. Hi, Pragati. Thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule. I'm so thankful to you that you come here for this podcast. And I have been seeing your work and I have seen, how mental health has transformed people. And I think people owe a big time to you because in Calcutta, I know you have been doing a great job. So, since how many years have you been in this mental health field?
Thank you, Suman. I'm really happy to be here. And it's really nice that you're talking about mental health because mental health is something that people still tend to be a little wary of. They feel it's for specific people. Even now, people feel that, oh, if there is a problem, go to a specialist. Otherwise, what's the need? Delve into issues. Kya zarurat hai?
Yeah.
So I've been in the field of mental health for the last 20 years.
That's a long time.
Yes, it's my passion actually. Books are my passion. Well-being of people is my passion. And I love knowing about what impacts human behavior. Why do we behave the way we do? Why do we think the thoughts that we think? And how does that translate into what we feel and our actions? So for me, it's not just work. I think it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. Mental health is not something which has to be looked at in isolation. No talk of health can be complete without mental health.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So now what is nice is, these days when I see people running marathons, as we've both seen, that people,
Yeah.
where nobody would probably walk around Victoria or the famous landmarks. Now suddenly it's very common to see on the roads, people running at all times of the day.
Yes.
So it's nice that physical fitness has become a way of life.
Yeah.
So I hope that in times to come, people also start taking care of their mental health in the same manner, like daily simple steps, which is bound to give them good mental health.
Oh, that's nice. So since you started Pragati, and I'm talking of when we were growing up.
Mhm.
So we did not hear this
Mhm.
word. It was not a buzzword, or maybe if it was a taboo. So
Mhm.
how has things changed from then to now?
In the West, people always knew that taking care of the mind is very, very important.
Mm.
But somehow in our culture, we stopped talking about our mental health. That is why it became a very big deal. If people spoke about mental health, it was very cliched terms that were used. वो पागल है, वो अपने आप को
Exactly.
मैनेज नहीं कर पाती है, या वो इतना इमोशनल है. So emotional didn't mean someone who was actually emotionally able,
Yes.
but emotional meant someone who was dysregulated in all over the world. And for me, it's very, very ironic because mental health care and emotional intelligence is something which has been spoken about since ancient times. If you look at our scriptures, they talk about happiness as a way of life.
Yes, they did.
I was attending a Vedanta class earlier, and where I remember that the leading person, the spokesperson, she said, what is the goal of human life? So our Vedanta says it very clearly. It's eternal happiness and infinite happiness. And if I were to ask, who am I? It's actually I am happiness. So our scriptures are so clear about having a mind which is very helpful and which thinks very helpful emotions,
Yeah.
like happiness. But if you look at us today as a society, we are very scared of the word mental health. If we hear mental health, we are like, oh, it is.
We still are, because there's so much spoken about right now, mental health, and now it's like a buzzword. Everybody speaks about it. We still, you think people
I will
still.
take you to COVID.
Yeah.
Everyone spoke about COVID, but weren't they scared of COVID? Because while they spoke about COVID, no one knew why it was happening, what would the impact be. Of course, as the disease stayed on, people found certain facts, but now we are still talking about the aftermath and the after effects, even
Yeah.
of medication. So, with mental health, what has happened is people have learned to talk about terminology, like terms like depression, anxiety, stress, and how they are bad for you. But it's like nobody is doing anything about it. We've forgotten that the basics are actually very visible to us. And if we look at our Vedic scriptures, if we look at our ancient teachings, they actually talk about mental health care as a way of life.
Yes.
Equanimity, being emotionally stable, having certain practices which take care of your mental health.
Yeah.
Meditation, which is now being sold as a product. Or yogic practices as something cool to be done. But those things were the norm. Balance in all forms of living, how much you spoke, how you enjoyed life, what you loved eating. So the daily mental health care was a way of life. So for me, I think it's really tragic and ironic that we feel that mental health is a very, very big deal and something which needs special care.
And something that people are not ready to accept. So if they have a problem like a health issue, they're ready to go to the doctor.
Yes.
But if they have some issue like depression or anxiety, I think they think twice, because people around them make them feel that it's not normal, and they don't need therapy, or they don't need a mental health practitioner, but they can fix themselves by, again, I think, a little meditation and writing gratitude. What do you think, Pragati, about mental health being fixed at home? So during COVID, many people were feeling lonely. So how have things anyway changed after COVID, pre-COVID, what there were to after COVID? Do you think mental health has become more prevalent after COVID?
See, I'm going to answer it. You've asked me multiple questions.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. So we are going to go about them one by one. Firstly, do you brush your teeth daily?
Yes.
Why do you brush your teeth?
To keep my gums healthy.
Yes. And to keep your teeth sparkling.
Yeah.
It's the same with mental health. Just like we brush our teeth to keep them in good health, we need to do certain things to take care of our mental health, which include journaling, which include exercise, so that good hormones go through our bloodstream. When we people now talk of dopamine, serotonin, and dopamine fixes, like suddenly when they look for aha things to do,
Yeah.
like something riskier, some novelty. So where is it that we talk about these kind of neurotransmitters in day-to-day conversations? We are talking about them because we do not understand what's really happening inside our
Yeah.
minds. So we are Googling terms and then we are just throwing it at each other.
Yeah.
So where I would like to take you is when we talk of, let's say, depression, anxiety. So there's a lot of awareness. So if we look at depression, if you spoke to a mental health practitioner, they would look at the terminology, but they would also look at the chemical imbalance or the chemical activity which is going on in your brain,
Yeah.
which is causing certain symptoms or discomfort. And then they would encourage you. What is therapy? Someone gives you a safe space to vent out. Now, for example, if you have a difficulty, if you talk to a friend, the friend may say, oh, let it be, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Everyone goes through it at this age.
Exactly.
Or
They
someone,
normalize it.
yes,
Yeah.
they normalize it. Or if you're talking to a partner or a parent, they're like, oh, you worry too much. You think so much. Stop thinking so much. So we don't feel heard. So what does a good therapist do? Just lets you listen, exactly like you're listening to me. I'm talking, you're paying attention. So good therapy is giving yourself that safe space to vent out.
Yeah.
And when you're with a qualified mental health practitioner, they are trained not to judge you. Even uncomfortable feelings or thoughts that are going through your mind could be because of experiences, could be because of past childhood traumas or experiences or some adverse childhood conditions that you have gone through, and helping you identify how those are actually impacting how you are feeling today.
And also I feel when you're going through something, आप किसी से share करने में आपको डर लगता है कोई और कहीं बोल नहीं दे.
Yes, yes.
But I think that safe space that you're talking about, you know that nobody's judging you. Whatever you're saying is within these doors. So I think
Absolutely. As a therapist, people often ask me, okay, what is it that you feel? If somebody is talking, it must be so stressful.
Yeah.
And for me, what I really see is a person who's willing to work at themselves to feel better about their life. For me, it's such a humbling experience. Every new person.
That's a positive way to look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So human beings have the capacity to transform. So while we are Googling terms, what's really helpful is going to a proper practitioner. Don't go to quacks who probably will tell you, oh, I'll fix up your depression.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll fix up your anxiety. No one can fix up. Sometimes there are certain issues, there are challenges which are difficult.
Yeah.
Like if someone gets diabetes, it's an unfixable thing, but you can cope up with diabetes and manage it well.
Yeah.
It's the same with certain issues that people can do with their life. If it's a relationship crisis, if it's an ongoing health concern, if it's a financial difficulty that they are going through,
Yeah.
or somewhere they have not explored their potential. So therapy is that space where people can actually look at themselves fearlessly and then discover who they can be and who they want to be.
So, Pragati, while growing up, I'm sure we've had our own experiences of having ups and downs and crying and all that. And because mental health was not such a term or we knew about it, we all dealt with it. कि maybe having a bad day, ये problem है, इसको ऐसे deal कर रहे हैं. But today, when you talk of mental health, so how do you draw that line between emotional fluctuations and actually having a mental health problem? Like, is it really depression, or is it I'm just having a bad day, or I'm just not able to cope up with whatever I'm dealing with? So how do you draw that line? How do you
See,
understand?
one is qualified mental health practitioners have certain diagnostic criteria on the
Okay.
basis of which they can label condition as depression or an anxiety or an anxiety disorder or a panic attack. But now a lot of times people are just Googling symptoms on social media
Yeah.
and diagnosing themselves. In fact, I want to share an incident with you. Young girl of probably 15 walked into my chamber and she said, ma'am, I wanted to see you. And what has really changed is, young people sometimes ask their parents these days and show up at my clinic,
Yeah.
which was not the norm even 10 years back or
Yeah,
pre-COVID. So I said, yes, how may I be of help? She said, ma'am, I'm having a panic attack. I said, oh, okay. Thank you. I could not see any visible symptoms. So I said, okay, could you tell me more? Sure enough, she listed out certain symptoms. And I asked her, where did you find out? She said, ma'am, Instagram. And they're very good. So then as we chatted about it and we spoke about it, while these symptoms were uncomfortable and they needed to be dealt with, but it was not a panic attack. And then I went into the clinical description in a light way. So we have certain criterias on the basis of which we label somebody as having a condition. Now, you must understand it's very, very important because, we are much bigger than any issue that we are having. Now, mental health exists on a continuum. Continuum is on a straight line. We've all done it in mathematics.
Yeah.
So, there are certain situations where we feel a little challenged. So we may have symptoms where we have a low mood, where we are unable to focus, where we are not able to talk to somebody, our eating pattern has got disturbed, or we are snappy at people or completely blocked up.
Yeah.
So these are some of the common symptoms that people feel, and they use it to diagnose it as a mental health condition, whether it's depression or anxiety. What is recommended is if any of these symptoms persist for more than 2 weeks, then it's recommended to go to a qualified mental health practitioner, someone who actually has certain years of study in the field, proper theoretical background as well as proper application based training.
Yeah.
So then they would be able to help you out, whether it's something which needs an antibiotic or medication, for want of a better word, or is it something which just needs some tender loving care, like, maybe certain practices to be involved or, to be brought into daily living.
This is so beautiful that, if I can come to someone like that and somebody can tell me, okay, this is all you need. And, it's so easy. Otherwise,
Exactly.
Staying at home and fighting that all by yourself is so scary. But somehow, I don't know why still, when I talk to people and when whatever a little understanding I have, I tell them, I think you need to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So if they're going through major issues, they still tell me only one thing. Psychiatrist के पास नहीं जाएंगे, वो दवाई देंगे, हमारा mind numb हो जाएगा. Why do people think like that?
See, they're not wrong to think that, because medication, psychotropic drugs do have side effects. That's why they have to be administered with a lot of care and after careful evaluation.
Okay.
So somewhere people being a little hesitant to seek help is understandable. That's why starting off with a psychologist is a good practice.
Okay.
If you see in most Western countries, the field of mental health is covered by insurance, and there are hospital systems, which get you appointments. So the first line of treatment usually is through a nurse who probably is trained in mental health counseling, or a psychologist who then decides whether a particular patient needs medication or not. So, or do they need talk therapy, or do they need assistance of some other kind if there's a learning difficulty or some other challenge? Sometimes they're addiction related issues. So they are guided accordingly. Like they have social workers there. If there is a family issue, then social workers get involved, So that is a very comprehensive way of looking at mental health. Here, what happens is in our country, we have very stereotypical image of mental health. And that's the reason why I got Vedanta into the picture. Mental health care is something which is ancient and it's our legacy. Just like Haldi was ours, and now we have turmeric latte everywhere.
Curcumin.
Yes, exactly. So now we need to understand that mental health, emotional intelligence are actually our legacy. Mindfulness practices, they have actually come here and they are a way of life for us. So we, at least as a nation, need not be scared to seek help, because it's in our DNA and it's something we all know.
Yeah. And after COVID, I think there has been a little more awareness. But tell me one thing, Pragati, I've always wondered, why has COVID been game changer for mental health? Why did people come out of their closets, I would say, talking about mental health or saying, fine, you know what, I think I have depression, I need to seek help. So what COVID did?
Actually, before COVID, what used to happen is we as human beings had gotten very comfortable with distracting ourselves. Let's say if you are feeling lonely, you're feeling bored, you just step out, you go for a coffee, you laugh it off. You go for shopping, you forget about it. You go on a vacation, you do that. If there's a quarrel with somebody, each one would just get into their individual cars and go and live their life. Or people had different jobs. But with COVID, when you are alone with your thoughts, or with specific family members, people realize that your mind needs to be absolutely healthy and stable. If it's not stable, it can drive you crazy. So they had no option but to talk about depression, or they had to talk about the need to face themselves. So
Yeah.
with COVID, what happened is people realize that running away from issues is never the solution. What's really needed is, if you have an issue, you give ear to it. What is giving ear? First, you listen to what exactly is the issue telling you. For example, if you have a toothache, the toothache is telling you something.
Yeah.
That something needs your attention and you need to do something, you need to fix something.
Yeah.
That is why the tooth is paining.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, let's say, dental care or a cough or cold, we know this. But when it comes to our mental health, we start thinking, oh my God, this labeling is happening. What will happen if I don't have my mind only? My mind is my executive. It is the powerhouse which makes me run, which makes me think, which is how I experience the world. If I say there is a problem there, so this actually can be traced back to a survival instinct. It's very uncomfortable to feel ki my engine is only breaking down. That's what I feel. Ki that's one of the reasons why we don't talk about mental health. But now, when you're just with yourself, you realize even if your engine needs fixing, I need to fix it come what may.
Yeah.
And because of social media, people had time to listen to each other. And because there was a collective undercurrent of fear everywhere. So somewhere people got tied in a common thread of facing a common enemy. With human beings, you will see when we feel united, it's easier for us to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that could be one of the factors why people spoke so openly about their mental health problems. Like I remember seeing that visual in Italy, where all the neighbors, they went on their balconies and they were playing various musical instruments. So, people actually wanted to connect to each other. They felt that, their shared humanity was enough to get through a crisis.
Yeah.
So I think they also realized that without their mind, they wouldn't survive. So they started talking about their mental health
Which
issues.
is so good, because earlier we were just fighting it all alone, and now we have somebody.
Yes.
And why not seek help? Pragati, social media and the youth, I feel, even the youth, why would I say only the youth, the adults, what is it doing to the adults, to the youth, and why is digital overload one of the main reasons for depression and anxiety?
See, one is anything which is not done in moderation is bad for you. With social media, what happens is a lot of addictive content is put out there. I won't go into exactly how media functions and all that. There are a lot of videos on that. So, what happens is people start getting FOMO, fear of missing out. They start feeling as though, oh, this one's life is so nice. She's vacationing. I don't vacation so much. Again, aspirational living has become unattainable now, courtesy social media. Let's say if you're doing something, you'll suddenly see somebody's picture who's doing something else. Maybe you were someone who's a couch potato and suddenly you start doing 1 hour exercise daily. But you see someone planning to go up to Mount Everest. Then you start feeling, oh, what's the big deal? I'm not lifting up weights like that person. Early on, it didn't matter. People looked for content based on their interest, or if their friends or their family members liked some other content, they accessed it. Otherwise, at least when we were growing up, it's like common programs which came, news and certain serials which everybody
Very basic,
watched. Very basic. But now what has happened is courtesy social media, that feeling of I don't have enough has got aggravated. Now, we human beings want to feel good about our lives. So that is why we constantly are comparing ourselves to others, which is leading to digital overload. I personally love social media because through my Instagram handle, through my YouTube channel, I can connect with people. I can talk about the work which I do. Certain tips can be out there. People have shared their stories of emotional well-being, which are out there. So I love it because I feel ki, it helps me connect to people who probably don't have access to therapists, but who can probably be in a remote corner of the world or in a remote village in India, but they can still access material. So anything which is not done in moderation can become toxic in time.
I had heard this somewhere, and it was so beautiful that a man, struggled a lot in life and, came up and bought a Mercedes, a second hand Mercedes, because that's all he could afford. And he went to his neighbor to share the news with him. And before he could, his neighbor told him that he's bought a new Ferrari.
Oh my God.
So that's what he said. He said, our happiness only lasts till we see somebody else achieving more.
Mhm.
And that's not a good, I think that's so suffocating at times to not be happy with what you have. And I think that also leads to a lot of things in the youth today.
Absolutely.
So when people come to you, I think all age groups come to you, men, women,
Yes,
and the youth. So what are the typical things that men go through, or the women go through, or the youth go through? Like, are they differentiated, or they are similar to what they
one
go
of
through?
the common things that everyone goes through is a lack of connection. Somewhere they feel misunderstood. Somewhere they feel that their loved ones are not getting their journey and they don't know what to do. Secondly, there is a restlessness which has come in, especially with the men I see. They feel that they have done enough and they don't want to do anymore. Now, for me, that's a very dangerous development in our collective culture because India is not an individualistic culture.
Yeah.
We, the Japanese, the Chinese, we are collective cultures. We thrive not just if we say that you don't just marry your partner, but you marry the entire family. So being family minded, the Greeks used to be our USP. Now, if we look at somebody in the driver's seat, which still happens to be a man in a patriarchal society, starts feeling he's had enough. You can imagine what's going to happen if you are in the car and your driver says, I've had enough, I don't want to drive your car anymore. You can imagine.
It's devastating.
It's disastrous for everybody involved. So I think this sense of restlessness which has come in men is very, very new. One of the reasons why I feel that men are struggling a lot more is they grew up in an era where they were not encouraged to talk about their emotions. They were brought up very gender jacketed, straight jacketed. Boys don't cry, don't express your feelings. Oh, women can do these things. But now what's happening is as the men are traveling globally, as they are being exposed, they are getting comfortable talking about their feelings, but they are so awkward. So many a times, it's like if suddenly I start singing, which I don't, I think everybody is going to run away right now. So now to sing in public, I need to train properly. That there is a way to do it. Yes, some people have a voice which is God's gift to mankind, but for most of us, it's helpful if there's proper training which is gone. So with men, what has happened is primarily I've seen is they are not comfortable talking about emotions. At the same time, there is a growing wave of moving towards a lifestyle which is filled with distractions. Oh, if you're bored, then do XYZ. Forget about your family. You only live once. So this YOLO syndrome or FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, if I didn't enjoy my life in the 20s because I had very strict parents, I might as well enjoy life in my 40s. I don't mind the cost which my family has to bear. So these are some of the kinds of difficulties that men are actually grappling with. One side, they feel guilty. On the other side, they feel they have had enough. So what really helps them? Like currently, I talk to a couple of bankers who are doing very well in life. They're all over the globe, and one of them is on the Wall Street. And as he started talking about his feelings, and as he started talking about his childhood experiences, his relationship with his wife improved. Because what men they do realize is there is a very interesting theory in psychology called object relations theory, which says that if you are struggling in a relationship, the cause of it is actually your first 5 years and the relationship with your mother or your father. Now, you can imagine how most people are going to think about it. But in therapy, you actually get a chance to understand how the emotional blueprint of relationships that you picked up in the first 5 years is impacting how you're feeling in your marriage after 20 years, after 25 years. Why is that sense of restlessness there? Why that sense of animosity towards your spouse? Where is it that you feel unloved or unsupported by your spouse? So, when there is a neutral therapist who actually helps you get in touch with your collective roots, because at the end of the day, we thrive in society. We are not very individualistic. So it really, really benefits men when they come. When women come to me, many a times they talk about not having done enough for their own potential, especially if they are in their 40s and 50s. Menopause is hitting, their body is changing, children have flown the nest. They probably have spent a major part of their life nurturing the family system. Even if they have been working, like many people, it's always been a priority to look after family.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly to hear from men that, what do you do? I am not bothered about you. They have an identity crisis. They feel, have they given up their personality or their dreams to nurture something which is disappearing? So, talking to women, helping them understand that their self worth is about them and what they feel about their journey of life. Whether anyone else validates them or not, do they validate themselves? Coming to children, now, many children, 20 years back, people were very scared to fight in front of children. There would be one patriarch or matriarch who yelled and screamed, but everyone else towed the line.
Yeah.
So everyone else was miserable together. वो दादी का चलता है, वो ताऊ जी का चलता है. Everyone else was like, boss strict है, मानना पड़ेगा. But now what's happening is these children grow up in households where parents are yelling and screaming at each other. They look at each other disgustedly. So safety at home has gone away from their life. Also, when they look at social media, they are not feeling fulfilled in their own lives. So with children, many a times they actually come to me with depression, with anxiety, with stress. But I have the best results with children, because children, they are like soft clay.
Yeah.
When they come, they talk about issues as is. And especially when I deal with children between 15 to 18 or 19, I often tell them, even if they talk about parents, ki, who's going to college with you, mommy or papa or both? They're like, no, I'm going alone. So it's like, so would you like to learn to take care of your mental health care? I can fix up mommy or papa or you. So then they are very comfortable, talking about themselves. They learn how to use specific strategies, not to get distracted by fights or enter the blame game. Or if it's addictions, a lot of children come with addictions and all that. So children, actually, I have this 10-session emotional intelligence protocol based on the book Emotional Ability Resources, which I developed at Harvard. So with children, I do that 10-session protocol, and I have seen tremendous benefit in them.
Tell us more about Harvard, Pragati. You were called to the prestigious Harvard to research. So what was it about?
Like we were discussing earlier, I've been in mental health for 20 years. Somewhere around COVID, my practice started exploding. So many people were coming, and I said, this is not normal. An entire generation of children cannot be diagnosed with mental health issues. We can't have people fighting everywhere. We can't say that everybody is mentally sick. So what is needed is, I thought about it. Teeth, when is it that there are certain nationalities, like the Britishers, you can see any British sitcom, their teeth are yellow.
Yeah.
They typically, they don't brush as much, So I have a disclaimer. I'm not being a racist here or saying anything about anybody. But typically, it becomes obvious. Like if you don't brush your teeth become yellow. So in the same way, why were people struggling so much with mental health? Because nobody knew what was the toothbrush, how to take care of mental health on a daily basis. So I actually applied for a research program. And at that 9-month research program, I discussed how storybooks on mental health care can be used to improve mental health.
Brilliant. Storybooks.
Yes. So I have a few of them which have got published, and some more on the pipeline. So deeply researched matter has been put as simple chapters, simple case studies, very applicable to the Indian subcontinent, and people are able to work on it. For example, if you're fearful of something, how do you categorize your fear? So it tells you how to categorize. It also helps you identify where did you learn to be fearful, and it gives you strategies to manage it. Anger, another uncomfortable emotion for most of us. So along with anger, so now, a lot of people who do the protocol, they draw the anger iceberg. Okay, I'm angry at my mom because she said this. I'm angry at my partner because she did this. But if they draw the anger iceberg, they realize, what are they hurting about? Where is the sense of rejection? Where is the sense of disappointment that actually led to the explosion? So this kind of do-it-yourself self-care module is like daily brushing.
Yeah.
You're brushing your mind of uncomfortable emotions and ultimately coming to a zone of emotional well-being, joy, and self-efficacy.
What is emotional intelligence, Pragati? So I have studied about it a little bit myself, but not much. So I want to understand, I want our viewers to understand, what is emotional intelligence?
Okay. So, emotional intelligence is actually a very interesting concept. It's about your ability to first understand yourself. It has five basic components. First is self awareness. Why am I feeling in a particular way? What is really happening to me? What happens to me when someone yells at me? Do I yell back? What happens in my body? Do I get irritated? Do I sulk? So, lot of parameters are there. First, it's becoming self aware. The next step of emotional intelligence is self regulation. If somebody has yelled at me, going back to the same example, do I yell back? Do I view it as an invitation to yell back? Or can I respond? I don't like the way the person is yelling at me, but would reacting be helpful for me? Or I can state my point in a very calm manner. If I do it in a calm manner, my blood pressure is fine. My vitals, like let's say my blood pressure, my heart rate, my body temperature, whether my hands, whether they are sweating or not, it remains calm and stable, and my brain feels calm.
Yeah.
When we are dysregulated, we get brain fog. It's absolutely like an explosion happening, and all thinking goes for a toss.
Yeah.
So the second component is emotional regulation. The third component is self motivation. If I realize that I struggle with loneliness or I struggle with certain challenges, then how can I do my bit to feel better? Like, for example, before we were starting off, I said I like to have water. My job is to see how can I make myself comfortable for anything that I'm doing. Now, when is it that there's a struggle in relationship? If I go into it, oh my God, why isn't there water for me? Oh my God, no. But if I'm self motivated, I have a challenge. How do I solve it? Then over time, what starts happening is I feel empathetic towards other. I can understand others also. Maybe they didn't have time. Maybe they felt in a particular way. Maybe they had other things.
Yeah.
Because I understand that I am enough for myself. And ultimately, I have better social relationships. With most people, I'm able to get their viewpoint. So I don't just feel better in my own skin, but with people around me. Because human beings, we are wired for connection.
Yeah.
We don't thrive alone. So emotional intelligence is essentially the foundation of all emotional well being that we experience. It's that tool which helps us understand that the positives in our life are more than negative at any given point.
Really?
Yep.
So, how would you, for a lame person like me or anybody else, how could emotional intelligence be a part of our daily lives? Like you said, mental health and mind, thinking about what is good for your mind every day. So, emotional intelligence, I think, is a very important
Absolutely.
aspect. So, I've studied that IQ is important, but EQ is more important. It goes interconnected, it goes hand in hand. So what can a lame person do every day to have a good EQ?
One is educate yourself about emotional intelligence. There are videos, there are learning management systems. In fact, there is a course which I have, which is just for $4.99. It's available on the website. So you actually can learn about emotions and learn how to navigate your emotions. So spending 5 minutes on learning about emotional intelligence from a credited source, which has been well researched. Now, what is a research thing? Research means you have actually taken something, any concept, you have taken it through a scientific process which has been laid out. And also, you have understood that it's scalable, it's generalizable, and it is going to help humanity at large. It's not something that today I have thought of something and that's good enough. No, it's gone through rigorous trials, and then you know that this actually works. So, it's very, very important to get a proper source of emotional intelligence and grow it. So I recommend reading on it for 10 to 15 minutes a day. Some daily practice, I really like this concept of daily meds, which is like daily meditation, daily exercise, watching your diet, and sleep. So these are basics according to
daily
me.
meds.
Yes. So if we do that, then over time we will see that our emotional ability has gone up. And these are emotional ability resources which will actually help you listen to any problem. See, if you are hungry, if you are angry or late or tired, what happens is you're not thinking with your faculties. You're already stressed out.
Yeah.
It's like trying to, operate a phone on a discharged battery. It's just going to give away very soon. It's better that if you charge your phone, then you use it very comfortably.
Yeah.
So these daily meds are something which will help you experience emotional well-being.
And talk about your books, Pragati, that you mentioned about emotional intelligence. So, how can we use those books?
You can get them on Amazon or your nearest bookstore.
Mm.
Their YouTube channels. And like I told you, during COVID, I realized that we don't have any resources which is very suitable to the
Yeah.
Indian subcontinent and even, Southeast Asians all over the globe, which actually is very conducive to their problems or relatable. We can read about Mike and Tom and Sarah, but we just don't resonate with them. The
Yeah.
problems that we face at home sometimes tend to be very typical of our culture, whether we are living in our country or traveling abroad or
Yeah.
we are settled everywhere else. So that is where I wrote these books. And then I deeply researched them at Harvard at two programs and even otherwise as part of my ongoing PhD thesis. So, like my book, Hope Stories for a Healthy Mind, I remember we took it to a village in Malsisar, where the school, about 200 children, they used the storybook every day. So the teacher would read the storybook. There was a set of instructions, encourage them to talk about their mood, and we mapped their depression and coping skills. So after 40 days, it was seen that depression had gone down in those children
Wow,
and
amazing.
coping went up. Yes.
So that can be done at home by
Yeah,
ourselves.
absolutely.
We don't need any help with
No,
that.
you don't
Oh,
need.
so that's amazing. I think
Yeah.
everybody should get a hand on them.
Yes.
How to deal with childhood trauma? Like you said, first to 5 years of your life, you've gathered so much, and even later. So I sometimes see people, even myself, why would I just talk about regular people? So we take out this childhood trauma either on our spouse or relationships or mostly on children, on our kids. How do parents, understand that it's their problem and how to deal with childhood trauma and so that it does not pass on to our children?
See, if there is specific childhood trauma, like let's say sexual abuse, physical violence, I strongly recommend working with a qualified psychologist to kickstart the process because while you will read the books, there are certain things which need to be weaned out of your system. It's like something toxic. If it comes out, you have to be able to put it properly.
Yeah.
A therapist knows what to do. If you've spoken about certain issues, then how to give vent to it, what kind of release work is required, what kind of additional support is required, because there is a time and place of everything. So, when it comes to childhood trauma, one is you can kickstart with the books. Secondly, seek therapy. Thirdly, what really, really works is journaling. Talking about it. See, if there is specific challenges which have been there, these days one of the other things that I'm seeing with people is sexuality. They're not sure of their sexuality.
Yeah.
If there are certain things, like now people still talk about their sexuality, but early on it was just not there. So usually the intervention of a qualified therapist is required to deal with childhood trauma, and I strongly recommend it. And if you feel that you are losing your cool on your children, talk to someone about it. 8 to 10 sessions will at least kickstart the process where you will start understanding what exactly is hurting. They say if the shoe is pinching, if there's a nail, you at least have to open your shoe to see exactly which nail
Which
is,
nail is
pinching. In fact, psychology says that there are about every child has about 3,000 hertz that they collect in their psyche. So, by that logic, we all have childhood trauma.
Yes.
The time to seek help is if you realize that you are getting irritated by certain mannerisms of your spouse.
Yeah.
That's the time. Now, even with therapy, therapy is a double edged sword. Is it that you want to seek therapy, I, me, myself, and nobody else? Or are you actually seeking therapy to grow your emotional intelligence? Which, as I spoke about, emotional intelligence always talks about the other person. That's empathy and better social relationship. So, if you're really looking at weaning off childhood trauma, your spouse actually perfectly mirrors the trauma that you are carrying. Let's say if you're having a power struggle, with your spouse, you're not valuing me enough. It immediately points out that there was a power struggle in childhood. Which parent did not let you talk about your truth? So these are some of the therapeutic tools. Are you getting where I'm taking you?
Yeah, I get it.
So with the
And they're so relatable. Whatever you're talking is so relatable.
Yeah. And good therapists, are trained with certain basic norms. First is if somebody is coming and sitting in front of you, especially if it's a couple, do you think, even if they are really fighting, do you think they want to come together or they want to separate? So if they are sitting in front of you, they definitely
They
want to
come together.
they come together. Or they would be going to a different professional
Yeah.
who specializes in taking them away.
Yeah.
So always as therapists, at least that is how my mainstay has been, helping an individual heal their hurts. But I'm very conscious of how does it impact the person's relationship with the spouse and specifically the children. Because like you rightly said, children are very sensitive. They don't need to study
Yeah.
psychology to know what's going on at home,
Yeah, and somehow disturbed atmosphere at home really
Yes.
scars the children at a
Yes,
very young
yes.
age.
Yeah.
So, Pragati, you were called the World Economic Forum to Davos, prestigious platform, and what was the topic that you spoke about at Davos? And do you think there was a need to speak about it at such a large platform? One more thing that I always wondered was when I saw you there, I saw on your Instagram profile, was mental health such a big part of the World Economic Forum?
So, coming to your first question, I was called to Davos as a woman leader who had an innovative concept and innovative idea.
Okay.
Using storybooks on mental health care to improve public health, to improve mental health, and actually create communities, where people thrive together,
Yeah.
where they are not at each other's throats. So the community could be two people living together.
Yeah.
The community could be two people and their children and extended family, the neighbors and all that.
Yeah.
So really how with stories, like we have Panchatantra, we have Vedic tales, we have tales around the world. Stories are a very powerful medium of getting concepts and value systems into people's psyche.
Yeah.
So my concept that using storybooks, using simple do-it-yourself case studies, to improve mental health care, they are very relatable, very cost effective, very scalable. So
and they're for all age groups?
For all age groups.
Okay.
So I have different books for different age groups. And sometimes in my sessions, like I have the first book of emotions, which is a book for 3 to 5-year-olds.
Oh.
So where you learn A for apple, if 3 to 5-year-olds learn certain words which develop emotional intelligence, like A for appreciation. So it gets mapped into their neural circuitry. So they think appreciation, gratitude, zeal, zest, joy, so as a way of life. It's not something which they learn, in their 40s or 50s when they want an eat, pray, love lifestyle, So that is what actually got me invited to Davos. And I was really excited to see that people were very, very receptive. And I remember a lot of other panels also reached out, governments and all that. In fact, I was called again this year, but due to some other commitments, I could not go. So definitely, I do see interest in Davos for mental health and really coming up with initiatives which can be, applied across geographies and across stratas. Early on, it used to be that mental health is a rich person's problem with too much time on their hands. But as family systems are breaking, as children are struggling, they are getting diagnosed with mental health issues from very early age. I do feel that these books need to be a part of curriculum. So like a child learns A for apple, the child learns A for appreciation.
Yeah. So IQ and EQ can go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when we see the youth today, dealing with anxiety, depression, and all of that, how do parents address the issues? And how do the youth share this with their parents? Because some families are not open with this conversation. So how can they have a candid conversation about mental health?
So I remember I got a call from my editor last year. She told me at Hey House, Pragati, will you write a book on parenting teenagers? I said, no, I shall not touch this topic with a barge pole. It's the white elephant in many, many drawing rooms. She said, no, we've done our market research. You must write a book on parenting teenagers. So I had, what I did is I had a team of 4 or 5 research assistants at that time, some in school. So I told them, I have a job for you. You go and interview 5 children each and ask them why they don't talk to their parents. What are their issues with their parents? And sure enough, I got those case studies. And based on those case studies, I wrote an entire book on it. Oh. Yeah. Really like coming from the horse's mouth. One of the chief problems between children and parents is communication. Parents feel I will tell them what to do. And children are like, if we go to psychosocial stages of development, as Eric Erikson has said, at that age, they want to show their identity. They don't want to be told. They want to be invited for a conversation.
Yeah. True enough.
So I think once that basic norm is established now, a lot of communication gap between parents and children get filled. So the book is a good way, like I said. So I literally, that book came across like that.
Yeah. Wow. So, Pragati, the youth, again, I'm coming back to the youth because somehow it, I want to
Absolutely.
help them and help us also in the process because, if they are happy, parents definitely are happier.
Absolutely.
So, when they go to schools, they see people of a strata and maybe they are not of that strata. That bothers them. Even for adults, I feel, when they go socializing and they don't feel that they have the best cars or the best houses and all of financial, I would say, ownership has become a very big part of mental health. So how to deal with it, and why is it become so important?
See, it's become important is because we've externalized ourselves. We are looking for happiness in things and material comforts. Today, if you look at it, the topic is to earn money, work smart.
Yeah.
You don't need to work all the time.
Yeah.
Spend quality time. But we have to realize that with any machinery, we are working like maniacs on our physical health. One could just get a slimming machine and sit. Why aren't we doing it? We are running more marathons. We are doing more exercise because we've understood.
Eating the right food.
We are eating the right food, but we also realize that the body is a machine. And for the machine to function well, it needs to be used. Every little muscle in your body needs to be used. It's not just a hand. There are hundreds of muscles which need to be used. So you have bicep curls, and you have something for the tricep, you have something for the elbow, you have something for the wrist, which early on we didn't. It's the same thing when it comes to people. We have to internalize ourselves. Thoughts. What are the thoughts that go on in my mind? What are the beliefs that I carry inside myself? The core beliefs that I have inside me, are they functioning or they are actually outdated?
Yeah.
How is it that I'm using my purpose? Who am I? What is the purpose of my existence? These are very important questions for us to ask. But unfortunately, these questions have got relegated to after you have a problem, you think of these things. So why we are going more towards finances, because as parents, somewhere we are to blame. We've externalized ourselves. When our parents, if you remember, I still remember my father telling me when I was a young child that ambassador mein ghumna hai, ghumo, andar mein kar lo, but bahar aankh mein nahi lagna chahiye.
Yeah.
So people were very conscious, like that empathy, what we talk about, of people around. They didn't want to strike out or make another uncomfortable. But now we've become very brash. There was a singer, who would wear a lot of gold chains, and people would snigger about him, ki arey itna gold chains pehen ke kyon kar hai? But now people think it's good to show off. So the more we have become comfortable with externalizing ourselves, our children have picked it up. So it's a very difficult pill for parents to swallow.
Yeah.
But, without the seed being at home, it's a rare child who picks up something else. Like today, I can't converse in Mandarin. I'm sure neither can you, from what I know. But why? Because we've never been exposed to it. So even if somebody breaks out in Mandarin in front of us, we won't pick it up. But if I grew up in Orissa, if someone talks in Oriya, I can understand. You've grown up in Bengal, you will understand Bengali because there is exposure to it.
Yeah.
So parents first need to take accountability. They decided to have children. So having a child just does not mean quality time. It means role modeling the behavior that they want out of the child. And our scriptures talk about it. All scriptures across the world talk about it. Surrender to a higher power. Get to know yourself better. Get comfortable in your own skin. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How do you feel you're using your full potential? So if these conversations become part of daily living, then financial disparity does not bother as much.
But parents now just have one thing to say. It's peer pressure.
See, passing the buck never helped anybody. I cannot say anything.
But I think to an extent, is it not peer pressure? Like when they go to school, I know families who stay very simple at home. Maybe they don't have the conversations that we're talking
I'm
about.
To share a very personal story here. I remember my son was 6 years old and he would lose a pencil and come every day. I would get really angry. And I thought I needed to teach him good values, that how can you waste things, whatever. Coincidentally, around that time, I was doing my course at Cornash to become a counselor. So I brought it up in class. So my teacher, she told me, what you do is get a box of pencils, about 100 pencils, some sharpeners and erasers, and you leave it on his desk. I was like, this though is gone case. I said, what are you doing? From now I will teach him to waste. I'm trying to let him feel there is enough. Let him not feel ki I'll get a scolding. So what is really being stolen? They need to understand what is right or wrong. If a classmate is borrowing a pencil, maybe that child doesn't have a pencil. They learn kindness also. Certain things now, when we talk of living in a community, we are supportive. Do you think you see the result in 20 years' time? I don't see my son judging anyone on the basis of the car they drive, the house they live in. He has an abundant mindset. So, what she told me is developing abundant mindsets in young children is very important. Till a child is 7, treat them like a prince. Give them a lot of time. Ask them what really happened. If instead of scolding them, if you ask them, they'll actually tell you what really happened with the pencil.
Yeah.
Many a times they'll say, uske paas nahi.
Just a small exercise has taught such a valuable lesson.
I have never seen my child misbehave with anybody on the basis of that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so it brings back many memories for me when I was a child.
Would you like to share something, please?
Yes.
I would love to hear.
So my father, was a very, very warm-hearted, yes, but a big-hearted person.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember my father's friends used to tell them, बच्चों को pocket money देना चाहिए, इतना होना चाहिए, they should be budgeted. इतना spend करना. And my father never believed in it. जो चाहिए लो. And I still remember जब भी हम पैसे मांगते थे पापा से कि पापा 10 रुपए चाहिए, उस टाइम में तो क्या टॉफी लेना, आइसक्रीम लेना है पापा. And he would never take out the money from his wallet and give. He would open his wallet like this and say जितना चाहिए ले ले बेटा. So we have never gone through कि मिल नहीं सकता है या मेरे पास enough नहीं है. So that's why I said it's brought back so many memories for me. And कभी भी, and a very simple thing my father used to do was, अगर घर में हम आइसक्रीम मेरे लिए और मेरे भाई के लिए आ रही है तो आइसक्रीम 10 आएंगे. So that everybody in the house help, their children, the security guard, everybody gets it. So I have never felt कि I am above them. They have never felt they are below us. So I think that was a very beautiful thing my father taught me. And till date I feel ki what I have is enough, and I think I should just, whatever I have is, I should spread whatever I have or give to people. And
rather you answered your own question.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. Thanks for sharing your personal story.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Pragati, mental health, talking of depression, talking of anxiety. Yes, there are words that have become, I think, larger than life today. Some people who are actually not even going through that have gone into the victim mode of believing that मेरे साथ तो ऐसे हो रहा है, मेरे साथ तो ऐसे हो रहा है, मेरे साथ तो ऐसे हो रहा है. How do such people, and when somebody like that is, you're dealing with as a friend, as family or whatever, how do you handle such people who have gone into the victim mode and all they talk about is मेरे साथ ऐसा हो रहा है, मेरे साथ ऐसा हो रहा है, तुम नहीं समझते हो, मेरे साथ ऐसा हो रहा है.
Take them for help. Ask them, so what? Basically, somewhere it could be a lack of
and they're not ready for help.
That's okay. Then maybe, see, there is always some benefit which comes out of the role which we play. Let's say if it's a family member who you feel is playing the victim card and you want them to get help, you have to understand, why are you trying to help someone who doesn't want help? What is it costing you if the person plays the victim card?
Yeah.
So basically, we need to mind our own business. Many a times, when young children,
because we love the person, maybe it's a family member with a very close friend who,
yes, then tough love works. That is true respect for the other person. Ki, yes, I love you, but I appreciate your viewpoint even if I don't agree with it. That is actually, honoring their humanity. When these challenges come, that's why a psycho-spiritual way of life is the only way, at least I have found in my 20 years of research with mental health care. Some problems cannot be fixed by us. Maybe prayers do help them. You can try and take them for therapy. If they don't, at least you would get an answer on how to manage your own mind when you are seeing a loved one suffer. That's where tough love comes in, because usually anyone who plays the victim card, there's not just one factor. There is a complex mix of factors. There could be childhood experiences, there could be addictions, there could be loss of autonomy, there could be fear, there could be a lot of unprocessed grief or trauma which comes in, lot of things which go on and on, you know.
But therapy definitely helps. I feel
100%,
it definitely
100%.
helps.
Because with therapy, one of the things I've seen that the presenting problem is never really the problem. Many a times I've had couples who've come in. Sometimes I still remember there was a couple who had come in who had one child, but there was no relationship between them. And I remember the girl's father had come. They haven't been intimate for years, and what needs to be done. And as we spoke, and as I spoke individually to them, I asked for 6 months' time. I said, this can't. A very deep rooted sexual abuse issue came up with one of the partners.
Okay.
In one of the partners, they spoke about how the partner had seen the father misbehave with the mother. So it was very difficult to be. So, sometimes talking about these things
Yeah.
in a safe space improves things. Bottom line, things got better. They had their second child in the fourth
Oh,
month
wow,
of
beautiful.
therapy. They got pregnant, and
Yeah.
so therapy really, really helps sometimes with such complex problems also. With addiction, sometimes with children, a lot of times they come, they play the victim. Okay, my mother is like this, my father is like that, 14, 15. So I often ask them, who's given you a bath today? And they look at me, "Have a look." Of course, I said, can your mother give? They're like, of course not. Can your father give? So I said, then why do we need to fix? So, sometimes talking to people and helping them accept their own responsibility for their mental well-being.
I think having the right approach, because we are not trained and we
Yes.
don't have enough knowledge,
Yes.
we cannot address the issue as much as we want to.
But that's where these books come in, Suman.
Yeah.
Okay, these books are for parents and children to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Some are picture books, some are actually books, where actually they can talk about it. Okay, pick up a topic. Like sometimes I tell teenagers or tell parents, okay, sit with your child and say, let's read this. Have you
Yeah.
felt it? Do you feel that this did not come in? So there are a lot of prompts with which to have these conversations. Otherwise, how do you start conversing all of
Yeah.
a sudden?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the ways where communication actually improves is by sitting and talking to each other in a soft and gentle manner. The way we communicate, somewhere we've lost the plot when it comes to communication.
And I've seen everybody, adults, children, youth, everybody is very quick to anger,
Yes.
quick to frustration nowadays. If you ask a question twice, they get angry. And I'm talking of both. I'm talking of the
Absolutely.
youth and the adults. Everybody is frustrated. Everybody just is very quick to anger, very short tempered. Why?
Again, I go back to the yellow teeth. Without daily self-care
Okay.
of your mind, you're bound to have these spikes and lows.
And since childhood, we have never done anything like this. So coming,
Yes.
at this age, I think it's just become a natural phenomenon to behave like this.
It's become because we are not addressing the actual emotions which are going through
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
If we are journaling, if we start thinking, what is my fear? See, anger usually has fear at the bottom. Where did I get hurt or rejected? Let's say somebody yelled at me. I have to understand what really happened. Why is my anger coming? Is it that I felt disrespected? Did I feel hurt? Did I feel rejected? Did I feel abandoned? Now think of it.
Yeah.
If at that time, if you go, so what happens is anger, amygdala is part of our brain where our memories are stored,
Yeah.
So anything which is dangerous, we snap. So if someone's angry, I better protect myself. So there could be some childhood association with that. But moment you start thinking, acha, what else did I feel? We go forward to a problem solving brain. So we talk about this part, the pineal gland is there and our prefrontal cortex is there, which is the problem solving zone. So if we really have to reduce anger, one is sipping water is a very good thing. Count till 5. Secondly, ask your mind, acha, this person yelled at me. Why am I feeling angry? What did it remind me of? So immediately what happens is I cut the amygdala, bypass it, and I go to my problem solving mode.
Yeah.
And the problem solving mode, this area is always calm.
So you have to shift your focus.
Yes.
Because before thinking, I think before processing
Yes,
what you're
yes.
going through, we've already snapped at the other person
Yes,
and the damage
yes.
is done.
Yeah.
Especially with children, I feel we are so quick to anger. With kids
That is
also
why
nowadays.
mindfulness techniques is important. If
Yeah.
you see in the Vedic times, everyone chanted together in the morning. So that equanimity was there. There were certain sounds chants had which actually stimulated all the nerves. So it's not that particular brain parts were getting activated and others were dormant.
Pragati, those were amazing tips to cope with anger, because I think we're so quick to anger these days. And because of our frustrations, the first emotion that comes out is anger, because we don't want to cry. Everybody wants to be strong these days.
Yes.
So earlier it was the men who wanted to be strong. Now everybody wants to be strong.
Yes.
So coming to that, I'm going through menopause, and all my friends are going through menopause. And जब मम्मी लोग का हुआ था, तो I think we didn't even understand कुछ हुआ है. My mom, I'm sure, must have cried, must have had days when she had, migraines, and all of that must have happened. But now I think I am not able to deal with it, because the emotional fluctuations are crazy. One day I'm angry, one day I'm upset, and even if I'm crying for no reason, I'm sitting and I'm just crying. And when somebody asks me, even reaching out to a friend, and she says, why are you crying? I don't know why am I crying. And they understand, because everybody is going through the same process, but others don't, because they feel it's such a normal process. Like, what is there? What is the big deal? And that's okay. I totally understand. They're not in those shoes, so they don't understand. But how do women deal with menopause symptoms?
One is by fearlessly looking at themselves. All answers lie within. If something is troubling you, see, the body keeps score. There's a very good book by the same name, but the essential message of the book is, and the researcher Basil Van Cork is, that the body never forgets. At menopause, your body is changing, it's transforming. There is a process of fertility which is coming to an end. So there is grief for that. There is a sense of unsurety. There are a lot of fears which get activated. At the same time, a lot of times women start doubting their femininity. They can't say it. So this fluctuation of moods happens because of that. A lot of it is hormone driven, based on where the hormones are going. But if I really spoke about it from a emotional viewpoint, what really happens is a woman takes stock of her life.
Yeah.
And sometimes some uncomfortable truths become glaringly obvious. Would you agree, yes or no?
Totally.
And at that time, you feel, have I missed the bus? Can I do something else? Is there a better life ahead for me? Like, again, coming back to our collective culture, women had a very stereotypical role even 20 years back.
Yeah.
But a woman today in her 40s or 50s is in her prime. Like probably people in their 20s were in their prime. Our mothers were probably grandmothers by the time they were in their mid 40s. But now if you look at it, when women are in their mid 40s, they are talking about traveling the globe, finding careers for themselves. They're looking good. Their children are still in college. So basically want to own the world. But sometimes social norms, family pressure, lack of skills on their own part gives them a sense of deep grief and sadness, which they don't know how to talk about. The body never lies. So if anybody is feeling these emotions, I strongly recommend therapy at this point. Especially the emotional intelligence coaching program that we were talking about has been geared up to help every person see themselves for who they are. Firstly, become fearless about who you are. Maybe you've missed the bus. So what? Maybe some dreams did not get met. So what? Maybe there is lack of confidence because of lack of skills. So what? Maybe there is anger because of neglect, rejection, of patterns in the family or society. So what? So at the end of it, when they come to terms with how they are self-sabotaging themselves, how is it that they were not there for themselves? See, for me, therapy is about personalizing the problem. Till the problem exists in the hands of a spouse, a child, or society, you can't do anything about it. And every time you want to control another, I recommend to people ki hold your nose for just 5 minutes for me. If you can do it, and close your mouth. Then, of course, we'll fix up whoever we need to. If you can't, then it's your responsibility to fix yourself up. See the role that you play in the discomfort that you are having. So once we personalize the problem, automatically we feel a sense of control. We feel as though we can control our situation, our body, the changes which are coming in. There is an air of manageability in our mindset. So once that comes in, the mind gets geared up towards having a growth mindset. So women, when they are at menopause, a lot of times doubts about their femininity, they're transitioning of roles, loss of autonomy, sometimes lack of support from friends and family in the name of just being cool, or,
Yeah.
that invalidation. How do I become stronger? How do I become resilient? So, actually, training for these things, like you train in the gym
Yeah.
to strengthen up the muscles, sometimes one just has to view it as an opportunity to strengthen own emotional ability and identify resources which will help you do that.
And I also feel, I see all around,
Mm.
women want to not be vulnerable. They see a sign of it as a weakness. So I think that has really driven them to a point where they don't want to talk about their problems because they feel nahi baat karne se to problem hi nahi hai. They're closing their eyes to it. So I think that also adds to it. And why is vulnerability such a thing nowadays? Like, why people don't want to be vulnerable?
Because as a society, we have stopped being human to people who are struggling. We are so ostrich like with problems, that we don't want to face anybody who's having a bad time. I often hear if somebody shares the struggle, people say, "Oh, don't spread negativity around. I'm struggling with my own problems. I don't
Think
emotional."
positive.
Yes, think positive. Don't dump your emotions on me. So, as a society, we are becoming unkind. Now, again, I take it back to yourself. If you are facing unkindness around, start asking yourself, am I kind to myself? Maybe another is not kind to me, but am I kind to myself? So rather than, let's say if a child would walk, a toddler, if the child fell down, we didn't go into why. First, we tried to soothe the child,
Yeah.
whether the child is hurt or not. But when it comes to us as adults, we go to the whys. Arey, why did he yell at me? Why did she not listen to me? What I need to do is first soothe myself.
Yeah.
First, understand, how do I feel when people are unkind to me? Okay, maybe they have chosen to be unkind and that sucks. But what I need is kindness. So where am I going to get kindness? So that reframing the situation, and rather than viewing behaviors in isolation, as right or wrong, what I have seen as helpful is identifying it as a helpful thought process or an unhelpful thought process. Now, if I think my spouse is unsupportive, is that helpful to my mental well-being?
No.
If I think I want more support, but I understand that for some reason, XYZ reasons, the person's not able to offer me support, would that be more helpful? And then if I still need support, then it's like I have to identify फिर कहाँ से support मिलेगा.
Yeah.
So that kindness, that empathy is going to make me more comfortable with my own vulnerability. Now, vulnerability is a prized commodity, but in our culture, we've become dismissive right now. So I always say, there's a very nice parable for it. A monk was walking on the seashore, and there were a lot of jellyfish there. So he was picking each one and throwing back. Fellow walking with him, his companion told him, what are you doing? There are millions of them. So he said, at least this one too will live.
Yeah. I made a difference to one.
Yes. So when each one of us start talking about it, I feel that my vulnerability is not being accepted. I can view it as an opportunity. Okay, this is how it feels when I don't receive positive affirmation for my vulnerability. Can I give someone space to be vulnerable? So I always believe that, that each one, when we try and help one person at a time, we start a Mexican wave of kindness and emotional intelligence.
So in the West, the cons I really like the concept of support groups. People who are going through similar issues come together as a support group and share their issues. And I think, you feel a part of this group.
Yes,
you
yes.
feel you're not just alone dealing with everything. So I think support
Yes,
groups.
and in fact, we at Cornash have been having support groups. So many a times, we read specific books on self growth and development. You had asked me a question about childhood trauma.
Yeah.
So we have read some very difficult books together as part of the book reading. How to deal with intergenerational trauma. Some of the books which have been spoken about on codependency, on difficult relationships, mother hunger, how to deal with. So books which have been written by psychologists with address issues, the nice girl syndrome. So people, when they are struggling with certain challenges, so when you read together, you identify patterns in yourself.
Yes, yes.
So rather than blaming the others who are probably behaving in ways which are not so nice, you actually start focusing on strength building.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful way. So I didn't know we have support groups.
Yes, we do have a couple of them. Yes.
Okay, great. Uh, One last very, very personal question, Pragati. How to deal with the loss of a loved one? In my case, I would say it was very difficult for me when I lost my father. So, how to deal with the loss? Because it's never easy. You're never prepared. And, when my friends who've lost one of their parents used to talk about it or cry about it, and I could, sympathize with them, but I really did not know that it can be so painful till I went through it. And people come and tell you strong raho, maybe he's in a better place, maybe, but that used to anger me because that's not what I wanted to hear. In fact, I didn't want to hear anything. So how does someone who's lost a parent or lost a loved one, losing children and losing
Grandparents also.
grandparents who they're very close to,
Yeah.
how do people deal with that?
I always recommend grief therapy. Talking with a therapist, having a safe space to vent out is very, very important. I remember a lady was recommended to me for therapy who had lost her spouse just 15 days back. And I was wondering what would I talk to her about. And as we started talking, she had grown up children. I realized, see, we have to understand one thing. Whenever it comes to loss of a loved one, while there's pain and sadness of them going away, there is also a sense of uncertainty. How will I manage myself without the presence of this person? Have I understood you correctly?
So बचपन से I'm telling you Pragati, it's a very personal story again. So बचपन से all I would say is मैं मेरे पापा के बिना नहीं रह सकती. So wherever he used to travel, he used to come back on the same day because I couldn't stay without him. So and when I got married, I'm from Hyderabad. I got married in Calcutta. I was not bothered family, what kind of a boy. All I was bothered about, how am I going to stay without my dad? So for me, since childhood, it was like I can't stay without him for a day. And now that he's gone, I really didn't know. So what you're saying is like, how will I manage? So it's been 3 years and I still don't know.
So I would actually recommend grief therapy. Talking helps. Sometimes, as part of grief therapy, we also have projective tests, to identify exactly what is hurting me. Like I remember I was with a child who had lost a grandparent. We were talking and we couldn't really identify. And he would see his grandmother who had gone away. So the mother was concerned, the mother was grieving. So, with the help of projective tests, which is there, we could identify, like, there's certain imagery that he saw, there's certain other things he identified. He was very guilty about certain thoughts he had had the day she died. So, once he identified, that got resolved. So, if this is still lingering on, there are 5 stages of grief. So, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has spoken about stages of grief. I think you must have read about that. But if it's still lingering, I strongly recommend seeking therapy, to really identify exactly what is the niggling pain that is hurting all the time.
So I've come to terms with him not being around, but I've still not come to the terms with him not being around. So I don't know how to explain this to you, but because there have been days, I really need him, and those days are the most difficult days that I go through. So I think therapy.
Yes, we will talk after the podcast and we definitely will explore it further.
Yeah. Thank you, Pragati. Thank you so much. I want you to leave a message for my viewers.
So I have a very simple message, Suman. Have an issue, give ear to it. Any issue you have, first listen to your issue. Like literally, like you and I are talking now. Sit with a pen and paper and just write about it. See what you have written. And then identify emotional ability resources, which is an acronym for EAR, that will help you cope up with the situation at hand. We struggle mentally because we feel that it's hopeless, or we are feeling helpless, or we are feeling unlovable. So once we identify how we can build up resources or enhance our own emotional ability, then we go into a zone of I will cope, I will manage, and I feel a lot calmer.
And I think we don't want to be alien, I think everybody deals with this. What's the big deal? So you don't want to be the alien one who's not able to handle it. So
absolutely. And we don't like being invalidated. If I can't manage, then I want to feel as though I can manage. So help is available. So have an issue, give ear to it, and trust yourself and the process of life. That's all from me today.
Thank you so much, Pragati. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
Thank
it was
you.
such a lovely conversation. We had some
Likewise.
personal anecdotes and thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Welcome to The Speaking Edge. I'm Suman Manaksya, a success coach, passionate about redefining success. For me, success isn't just about personal milestones. It's about empowering others and creating a ripple effect of positive change. I firmly believe that to truly excel in life, we need to cultivate essential skills like problem solving, emotional intelligence, decision making, and resilience. These aren't just tools for professional growth, they're the foundation for navigating every challenge life throws at us. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's not just a series of conversations, it's a life university designed to help you learn and grow through real life examples. By hearing the stories of inspiring individuals, you'll discover how these skills can empower you to make a meaningful impact on your own life and the people around you. So I request everyone, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for updates.